dominant.
This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. This is going to be interesting to see right
One
here.
of the best seasons we've ever seen. He's about to add another check. Let's go. Cooper Webb up the inside. Everything comes up Degan with his first ever Supercross win in Texas. And Cooper Webb won again in Dallas. The king of Texas. Welcome to what I'm going to call a special edition of SMX Insider with the Jasons here, Thomas and Weigandt. Why special? Well, JT, I don't know if we've ever had quite this high of a dynamic going into the Daytona race of this championship. I know our guy RC says the series starts here, but it really might this year. And now, thanks to our friends at Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing, who dominated the proceedings at Arlington. And when you consider Chase Sexton and Aaron Plessinger on KTMs and how good Honda is with the Lawrence brothers, and the list goes on and on, the high water mark of contenders and stories and personalities, I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this.
Yeah, we have so much parity, and I know there are some out there that are really getting sick of us using that word, but I don't know how else to describe it. You know, every time we think we have something really figured out, we're shown that we don't at all. And I do agree with you, though. The big storyline leaving Arlington was that Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing showed up and they delivered, winning both classes and even going top two in the 450 class with Tomac and Webb. They got right back into this championship in both classes, really.
Yeah, so first of all, our thoughts are with Austin Forkner. We don't have the full prognosis of if or when he will return to racing, but that was a brutal crash. And honestly, that's the biggest takeaway. We definitely don't want to stop thinking about him. And we will get more in depth on that a little bit later in the show. But as for the Yamahas, yeah, Degan rights the ship in the 250s. But in the 450 class, as great as it was for Webb to win, and he wins at Arlington all the time, the most of anyone, those laps from Eli Tomac in the second half of the race, that has breathed to me so much even more life into this series. Now, I know our buddy Steve Mathis says that doesn't mean he can win this title, but to have Tomac hitting this stride heading into Daytona is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it was just signs of life because especially at Detroit and even Glendale, we had so many questions about can Eli find that old form. Well, this was Renaissance Eli Tomac, and for him to get back into this championship fight and be a real contender, he's going to have to be the Eli Tomac we knew from those championship winning years. So I think for every time we think we have, Ken Roczen's winning Glendale, he's going to surge to the front. He has this struggle race. So again, we have to give so much credit to the script writers here, and I'm joking, of course, but every time we feel like we can count someone out, they bounce back and bring the lead back to the front.
Preview everything we're going to have in this episode. As mentioned, we're going to talk 250 class, which includes the Forkner crash, the Degan win, everyone who was down at the opener in Detroit, getting some vengeance at Arlington, and many other great stories, including Military Appreciation Night that we had in Texas. But first, let's break down some data here on Webb's victory and how he does it, which is always in the way he did it in Texas, with Clinton Fowler. Okay, so now we bring Clinton online. We're going to talk about Cooper Webb, and this was tough. JT and I were discussing this. I'm not sure this time it was truly the pressure from Cooper Webb, because we've also seen riders seemingly close to Jett Lawrence, and Jett Lawrence has no problem with it. But this time he crashed. So I don't know if it was pressure from Webb or Jett just crashing all by himself. But no matter what, you look at the data at the end of the race, Clinton, it looks just like it always does. Another close race and another clutch win for Cooper Webb.
It's just the way that Cooper Webb wins. This is what we've gotten used to over the years, right? And this year's no different. Jett Lawrence has led 71 laps. Cooper Webb has led 5 laps. It's absolutely incredible. He just always seems to be there. He knows how to win. JT, what's it like when you're a competitor and you're late in a race and you see Cooper Webb coming up from behind you?
Well, I think for Jett, he's still kind of learning what that's like. The other guys, especially Ken Roczen, it's probably one of his worst nightmares is to look back and see Webb late. But that's the one thing we haven't seen yet. We don't know what that looks like. Can Cooper Webb go up and pass Jett? I don't think this was necessarily that in Arlington, but the question remains. We're waiting for that signature moment from Webb where he hunts Jett down, makes the pass late. If he does that, to me, that is a key messaging moment. But I think if you look back over the course of these races, aren't there a ton of events like this where Cooper Webb's barely led any laps at all and still found a way to get the win?
Yeah, JT, there's 5 races where he has led a total of 8 laps and he's come out the victor on it. Just incredible. I remember the one in Atlanta. We were just talking about Ken Roxon. He had made a mistake and Webb got back in and he led the last 2 laps and takes that victory. Just incredible, Weege.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many that stand out. And obviously the Arlington 2019 closest finish ever sticks out so much that Webb even said, when we showed that in the broadcast on Saturday night and he saw it back at the truck, even that fired him up and reminded him of how good he is. But you got a couple other key ones that maybe are not as memorable, but are actually kind of similar to that Arlington win.
Yeah, we're coming up to Daytona, guys. I mean, this is a big race, a critical venue, and it's a place that Webb doesn't have a victory, yet he's been on the podium 6 times in 6 starts, which is just absolutely incredible. And I think about that 2022 race where he led the first 15 laps, and in reverse, Eli Tomac caught him at the end of that race. And so, JT, my question for you here is this the year for him? Is year number 7 the year for him now that he's back on that Star Racing Yamaha bike?
I mean, we have to think that every year he goes to Daytona, he could win just because of how strong he's been there. But I also wonder, if he's looking at this big picture, if he just has confidence knowing like, well, I should be on the podium. And if I'm on the podium, that bodes well for this championship because the results for everyone else have been all over the map, right? So we don't really know what to expect from Jett on a 450 at Daytona. Odds are he'll be really good. But I think big picture for Webb, he's going to have confidence either way. If he gets a win, great. But if he doesn't, a podium in this series right now is a very, very good thing because everybody else has been having a really hard time finding consistency.
I didn't realize he had 6 podiums in a row. And honestly, Clinton, most of them are runner-ups, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 times where he's been second. The other 2 times he was third. And those 4 times he was second to Eli Tomac, who obviously loves Daytona and had great success there. So we've got a great race to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, and even that third in 2018, that was, for lack of a better term, the bad Cooper Webb. That was his first run with Yamaha where he was struggling week in and week out. And then all of a sudden at Daytona, he came to life. He and Tomac actually got into it in the heat race, taking each other out. It was the only race he was really good that entire year. So there is something to Webb at Daytona. We probably just don't realize it because it's all overshadowed by Tomac. I mean, that's the real thing, right? This Eli thing, he's already got the record, but he might be a beast here. This is really setting up well, isn't it, Clinton?
It looks like it could be a great battle with a rookie like Jett Lawrence in there, who's led a ton of laps. You got a guy like Cooper Webb and another guy, Eli Tomac. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure, guys.
Yeah, we are too. All right, great data. It might be a good track for Webb more than we realize. Just gonna have to watch all the way to late in the race, everybody. 30-second board, hot topics in the sport. I want to start with Military Appreciation Night. It is so cool, first of all, to have the men and women who have or are currently serving our country and helping fight for our freedoms. And then it spills over to the racetrack with the phenomenal buy-in from pretty much everybody on gear and graphics. And I got to give credit. I called them out last week. The Red Bull KTM did have a subtle military look to their bikes. They don't always participate in these theme nights, but even they got in on it. It was phenomenal, JT.
It was, and it was hard to not feel the emotion. The piece that we showed on Cameron McAdoo with his sister was amazing. It's hard not to be emotional during those moments. And I have to give a nod to people like Dean Wilson and Max Anstey, who were not born in this country, yet you could see how much they appreciate and how big of a moment it is. And to see them kind of lean into it and give a nod, I think it makes the moment that much more special. And speaking of unique things for this Arlington round, this is the round built for Aaron Plessinger and his cowboy hat. And there was a really cool event they had going on Friday night, a meet and greet where all of his fans could show up, spend a little time with him. And get this, he actually rode a mechanical bull. And I think they slowed it down a bit, but to see him in action, to see him get to sign some autographs and just be a part of the event overall, this guy, he's really kind of come into his own as far as a fan favorite, and you see him there riding the bull. This is a huge deal for AP.
It is, but they didn't want it to be too huge of a deal. Yes, we did hear the KTM people turn the intensity down on that, however that works. But this is not a poser thing. Aaron does own horses. He said he actually went to a rodeo for fun with the family during the weekend off that we had before this race. And he said off season, I'm getting on one of those things and I'm turning it up. But right now he's in title contention, so they can't do that right now. But everything the guy does is phenomenal right now. He's crushing it. But we were crushed watching Austin Forkner. We were anticipating this great Forkner and Degan kind of battle of the generations. We were getting it. And then he goes down, and that's terrible, obviously, in its own thing. From a humanitarian standpoint, we didn't know what condition he'd be in after this, JT. We now hear it's 2 broken vertebrae and a broken scapula. I don't know when or if we'll see him back. This is just so hard to see for so many reasons.
Yeah, it was hard to watch, honestly, in the moment. And you saw it live, and then you weren't really sure what his condition was, right? And I think all of us collectively were holding our breath because we didn't know if he was okay. And really until we saw him up and moving and going towards, the Alpine Stars medical mule there, we're all fearing the worst. And it's an unfortunate part of the sport that we all love. It is dangerous, and there are things like this can happen. But thankfully, Austin Forkner is up. And let's hope he's back in action sooner rather than later. And speaking of bouncing back, we hope that Forkner will be able to, but these other riders, they were down in the first turn in Detroit. They didn't get the result they were looking for. And you think about Cameron McAdoo, you think about Tom Vial. There were so many points down going into Arlington. Well, guess what? They land on the podium. They really did exactly what they needed to do to climb back into this championship. They had to show up in Arlington, and boy, did they ever.
Yeah, that was big for them to get all those points back. It's crazy. I guess the top 4, if you go back to Seth Hamaker, who finished in 4th, were all riders that were down in that first turn crash. And then, yes, unfortunately, they make up a ton of ground on Forkner, who did not finish, and we presume is certainly out of at least this Supercross championship. And the other bummer is, you and I were both analyzing this as the race went on. Forkner had done such a good job of adapting to where Degan was catching him. It's kind of a chess match to the whoops. But then Degan said, I had energy. I was going to put in one more charge. I feel like we're kind of robbed of the Degan versus Forkner battle that we wanted to see maybe all year. Degan's bummed on that. He did, by the way. I don't know why social media keeps saying he's celebrating too much with Forkner going down. He did send props and thoughts out to Forkner. But then he did also do the ghost ride. Look, man, you got to do it. He won his first Supercross. It's the way his dad celebrated his first Supercross. That's what it looked like when Brian Degan did it. They did over the finish line jump. Shout out to Hayden for realizing the finish line probably too big these days. Do it over the little tabletop.
Well, yeah, and I think for Degan, not to defend him, but again, this is his first Supercross win. He should be celebrating it. And also, he didn't likely see the Forkner crash all that well. He doesn't know that it was this super heavy crash and we're all worried about the status of Austin Forkner. He's in the middle of a race, right? He sees the yellow flags go up. He knows Forkner's out of the race, but Forkner could have been fine and been, sitting on the side of the track waiting to exit. He doesn't know any of that. So I think we have to be a little bit careful about placing blame. This is a huge moment for a young kid, and I thought he handled it perfectly fine, right? He is who he is, and he had every right to celebrate in that moment. And as amazing as that Degan win was, right, he's climbing back into the championship. The red plate now belongs to Max Anstey with 2-6 finishes. And I don't know that I've ever seen scores like that would give you the red plate, but that's what this 250 East class has been. Guys have been on the ground all over the place. We lost Austin Forkner there, but Max Anstey going into Daytona with the red plate, this is a huge deal for the Englishman and a very unlikely story.
Yeah, and a huge deal for his team, which Max keeps accentuating, only has like 4 or 5 employees. This is a privateer level firepower Honda team. I want to go to the 450 class now, and this was actually your idea to make sure this was a topic. As exciting as it is with Webb and Tomac making moves and Jett Lawrence and the points lead and all that, there are some other rookies besides Jett who've been really good this year, including quietly Hunter Lawrence, back-to-back top 5s, and he was right there with Tomac and Plessinger battling for a podium really down to the wire.
Yeah, some of these rookies are really showing up. Hunter Lawrence, that again, we're kind of wondering where would Hunter kind of find himself in this class. And I think that question was only getting louder, but after 2 top 5s, pressuring Aaron Plessinger all the way to that podium finish. And then you back that up with Justin Cooper, who is putting in incredible qualifying performances. And you have to think that some of that speed he's showing in the afternoon is going to show up in one of these races at night. But I think to have 3 rookies between Jett, Hunter Lawrence, and Justin Cooper all inside the top 10, after, we're getting close to the halfway point. I think that's a really strong start to the series for these guys. And another guy that we thought would be up there that hasn't been, right? He has not been a factor so far, has been Malcolm Stewart. I mean, there was always this talk about heat race Malcolm. Everybody, we get so excited about the speed he could show. That's been non-existent this year until Arlington. We finally saw it. And yes, maybe the main event's not quite there yet, but this is a sign of life, or a proof of life from Malcolm Stewart. You see him battling Jett there. The crowd was on their feet, which is really what we've been missing for all of 2024 with Malcolm.
Yeah, to think we've had all this, I got to use the word again, parity, and Malcolm wasn't even a part of it yet. Meaning there's even more competition that could be coming. Everything we saw at Arlington shows that Malcolm could be podium or battling for race wins soon, which is what we expected all along. It shouldn't be a surprise. It's just the first 6 rounds didn't look that way. And you never know what you're going to get. So I want to mention, we already talked about them at the start of the show with Star Racing sweeping everything, 1-2 in the 450s and winning the 250 class with Degan. But credit to Will Christian on our TV show. She was the one that uncovered this unbelievable stat of the ownership of this building, not by Jerry Jones, but by Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac. The last 9 times we raced in AT&T Stadium, it was either Webb or Tomac winning.
Yeah, they've really dominated this event, and I'm not really sure what the reasoning for is it. They switched teams throughout that period. Nothing's really been consistent as far as being on Monster Star Yamaha. They just happen to be there at the moment, but man, do they have it figured out. And I was exiting the stadium at the same time that Tomac was, that Webb was, and all of the team staff, and you could just see the jubilation. Like, they were full celebration mode, high-fiving, hugging. So as they say, the vibes are high as we head towards Daytona, which we know has been a great race for both of these guys. Webb has, I think, 6 second-place finish, or 6 podiums there anyway. And, Eli Tomac's the winningest rider ever at Daytona, so why wouldn't that continue? On the other end of that coin, though, for as good as Tomac and Webb have been at Arlington, and you could argue that Jett maybe should have won Arlington. He was leading the entire race. He makes this key mistake with a few laps to go and then finds himself on the ground again on the last lap. Jett has made more mistakes in this Monster Energy Supercross series than I think I've ever seen in the course of his career, both 250 and 450. And you have to wonder, Weege, is one of these going to catch up in a big way? You think about the variance in his results. We've never seen anything like this from Jett Lawrence. And yes, it's an early career, but it seems a little bit out of character for him.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Jett is so talented that even when he crashes, they tend to be almost ballet or poetic level gymnastics dismounts. There you see the crash that cost him over the weekend. But you can only hit the ground so many times, no matter how graceful you are, before one of these catches up to you. I go back to press day at San Diego, where he cased, I don't even know what he was doing there. He did 2.5 to triple or something like that. I mean, a mere mortal is breaking an arm or wrist when that happens. The case in Glendale, which could have got an ankle or a knee or something like that. He always looks graceful and tuned into the motorcycle. But I do worry that if you keep making these mistakes, one of these times you're not getting up, you're scoring 1 point or 0 points, and that's going to cost you a title or even more. So I think if you're the veteran guys, that's what you're not banking on, but it's definitely in the back of your mind that he is still, well, as Eli Tomac says, he's still young. And we will find out, because it's not just Daytona. That's what makes this series so difficult, right? It's back to back to back. After Daytona, we're going to Alabama. This is really cool. We have not held a race in this stadium ever. We actually did have one Supercross race in the state of Alabama. They held a Supercross 40 years ago at the infield of the very famous Talladega Super Speedway, and Jeff Ward won that one. But we know with previous events in the Southeast, Atlanta, of course Daytona itself, we have a very rabid crowd in that area of the country. So we're pretty excited. And we hear, by the way, JT, this stadium is very similar to where we race in San Diego.
Yeah, I think this is going to be truly a regional event, right? Because you think about the fans that used to go like to the New Orleans Supercross. I think you'll get all of those people that maybe they live in Mississippi, Louisiana, come over. Even the Arkansas crowd, and you're going to get the fans that are likely going to go to Nashville as well, right? So you're going to drag in all of those people. Of course, the fans that would always go to Atlanta each year. So I'm kind, I think a lot of people are wondering what to expect. I think the turnout's going to be really, really strong because you're pulling from all of these very strong Monster Energy Supercross fan areas.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really going to be a cool one. And we'll have Philadelphia later, which is another one. We've never raced in that stadium. We did race in the city a long time ago, but the sport is at a much higher profile now. So it'd be really cool to go to both those new venues. And then after all that, remember, by May, Pro Motocross will be right upon us. All part of the 31-round Super Motocross World Championship. We've been showing you the 2024 Pro Motocross schedule all year, but at Daytona, we are finally going to reveal the venues for the SMX playoffs as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll announce it right during the Saturday night broadcast this weekend.
Yeah, it feels like they've been kidding us, Weege. Like, you went through the fall. I thought we were going to find out. Then it was going to be the Anaheim 1 press conference. So I feel like someone's teasing me with this playoff schedule. So I hope it comes out here. I've been anxiously awaiting to make my travel plans. I'm sure everybody else is too. But these playoffs are great. We're going into year 2 of it. It's going to be awesome.
That's you. I only make travel plans about 5 days before the event. Then I'll start looking into it. Yes, for others, though, it'll be cool to find out where we're racing these playoff rounds. And remember, this is all relatively new. We're only 1 year into it. And it's really cool. We very rarely get to do this, unpack the behind the scenes of how all these things come about. So for this week's big interview, we're going to bring in Kerrie, Coombs, Russell of MX Sports Pro Racing. Those are the folks that run Pro Motocross. And get a little more background on how this all started, working with Feld Motorsports and the folks at Monster Energy Supercross to make the sport come together as one, and what it has led to with both playoffs and many, many other benefits for the sport. Welcome to our big interview. This is cool. This weekend we have Monster Energy Supercross in Arlington, but it is the annual Promoters Summit. Is that the proper word?
Yeah.
Joined by Kerrie, Coombs, Russell of MX Sports Pro Racing. That's who I work for during the week, just so everybody knows that. So, look, it means a lot, actually, to know that the promoters of all 11 tracks in Pro Motocross are here at a Supercross to have their meetings. Kind of symbolic that Supercross and Motocross are that integrated.
Well, we've been having this annual summit since 1998, and we always try to have it at a Supercross so we can learn from Supercross and get together and share best practices, and it's been a great educational event for us.
It is, but it's cool. Last night, I got a free dinner out of the deal. It was great. And
You're
then I see
welcome.
Dave Prater and everyone from Feld with the Supercross hanging around. That alliance, which is funny, it's actually about 4 years ago, almost to the day when this vision of SMX came together at Daytona, really.
Yeah, we got together 4 years ago at Daytona, Feld Motorsports, MX Sports Pro Racing, and said, you know, we can work together. And maybe there'll be opportunities in the future for us to work together. And bam, COVID hit.
Yeah.
A month later. So
Yes. You had to start working together.
we had to start working together to get the Supercross season in.
Yes.
You know, they had really a tough time
Sure.
with all of the regulations and restrictions, and so they came to us and said, listen, we need more time in the season. We said, absolutely. We pushed back our season once, and then they said, we need more time, and we said, whatever you need, because it's important that Supercross be completed.
Yep.
So once that was over, motocross, we got our season in. It was a shorter season than usual, but we got it in, both of our seasons. And I think motocross and supercross were the only professional sports, the first professional sports to get back.
Oh, yeah,
feet,
it was
for
May.
sure.
It wasn't even that big a break for Supercross. So at that time, 2020, to get the races in, did you think, okay, this is just the beginning? Or was it an exhale and like, hey, we got it done, we'll go back to what we do? Or did you already start to feel like, wait, we could do more if we start working together?
What happened was, because of COVID, we started our Monday leadership meetings.
Yeah.
And so it was AMA Pro Racing, Feld, MX Sports, and we said we had to figure out how to get racing in general back.
Yes.
So
not
that's
just your races.
Everybody's races.
Okay.
Loretta Lynn's, the GNCCs.
Yep.
And so the Safe to Race Task Force was formed. And out of that came, we were able to get back to the racetrack before anybody else.
Yep.
And that just working together made us realize there may be some other opportunities. So when our television package was set to expire, we thought, you know what, maybe if we go to market together instead of 2 short seasons, one long season. And that's how we started working together on this scale.
Yes,
So,
and then this playoff thing comes around, and I know the first year of anything is it's almost like a startup business. It's never easy, but you guys have to be happy. Scary, okay, we go that far. But on the outside,
the crowds have been up at both events, both Supercross and Motocross. SMX was pretty fun as well. So you have to be happy, even though I'm sure it was a lot of work, how at least that first year has gone.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
It really has. We've learned so much from each other, and the crowds have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Television has been just a joy to work with and to see you. And how you guys have really raised the whole bar for our sport. I'm so grateful.
And you have a number that you're really proud of. Yesterday
do.
you were buzzing about last night. Hit us with the number.
36 million.
36 million is the contingency and the total purse?
Yes.
From all SMX Motocross Supercross.
All 31 rounds is 36 million.
Wow, that's how much is on the line for
We've never been
riders.
able to put that together. You know, you've had the motocross contingency, Supercross contingency, and you know, the purses were the purse. Now we have the SMX contingency and the SMX purse.
Yes.
Put it all together.
Yep.
36 is my new favorite number.
$36 million is a lot of money, but that's it. It's literally just taking everything, combining, and how much bigger and better the sport feels when we do that. All right, well, now the meetings are over, so you just get to be a Supercross fan tonight?
I'm going to fan out for sure.
Okay, all right. Awesome to have from MX Sports Pro Racing, really one of the visionaries behind this, and I'm telling you, I've been in the meetings with yourself and Kenneth Feld. It is really cool to see everyone best practices. If it's a smart idea, don't even care where it comes from. Let's
I'm going to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to take
That's
it.
great. Kerrie, Coombs, Russell from MX Sports Pro Racing. Thanks and enjoy fanning out tonight.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, that's almost it for our episode, but a few other notes we want to talk about before we go to Daytona. We'll have the Supercross Futures Racing Daytona for the first time ever. You know that those kids are looking forward to that because this is it's a Supercross track, let's be honest, but it has a little bit of a motocross element. So they probably all feel a little bit more comfortable there. And also, JT, Adam Cianciarulo, I think it's just been a life goal. He grew up like 10 minutes from this track. He keeps missing Daytona with injury. He is promising to be back from the hand injury this weekend.
Yeah, we really need AC back out there. It's his home race. He literally grew up about 15 minutes away from the speedway, and he adds a lot to it. I would argue he adds a lot to it off the racetrack as well. If you follow him on social media, he's such an insightful guy. But yes, I will be cheering for the number 9 come Saturday night.
Hey, what about futures at Daytona? Do you think we hear so much about nerves with these kids? Will it be a little bit less nerve-wracking because maybe they'll feel a little more comfortable on this type of track? What do you think?
Daytona is tough. You think about the challenges that it brings for everyone. I'm gonna have to wait and see. I know that a lot of these kids have ridden the RCSX that will go on after the Saturday night Supercross, but this is a really, really demanding racetrack. So let's just wait and see. I'm sure they'll be fine, but I think there are going to be some wide-eyed youngsters leaving that track on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's a beast for sure. Let's tell you how to watch. We will be on Peacock and the SMX Video Pass all weekend long. Race Day Live starts at 1:30 Eastern Time on Saturday. We'll be racing at 7 o'clock Eastern. And also, we're going to bring James Stewart back on the show. He'll be in the booth alongside myself and Ricky Carmichael, so it will be great to hear Stu's comments during the show. Of course, you can always listen to it on his Bubba's World podcast. And we'll have you, JT, and Will on the floor reporting. Again, we will be announcing the SMX venues during the Daytona broadcast. Look, we look forward to Daytona every year because Daytona's cool in and of itself. But I don't know if we ever had this level of anticipation. JT, we even have like budding heat, maybe, I think, between Tomac pointed toward Jett Lawrence and Tomac starting to come to life and Lawrence with the red plate. And Cooper Webb wants to win this so bad. Sexton, Plessinger, Anderson, Roxon.
Everybody, there's going to be people running in from out of the tunnel, jumping into this thing at any moment here. And none of this is cheap heat either. I know that's your thing, Weege.
Yeah.
This is genuine parity, and the results speak for themselves. I don't know what to expect from Daytona, but that's what makes this series so great so far.
Yeah, I think this year we might really say the series really does start here because it is anyone's title at this point in the game. Make sure you watch us this weekend. And thanks for now for watching this episode of SMX Insider.